Good afternoon, dear colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, regarding, sir, the request of Secretary Rogelio Singson for the Integrity Initiative to assist in the request for the contractors to come out with the pledge, PCA, Philippine Constructors Association, a non-profit organization with members, mostly AAA contractors, have already come out with the pledge. I think it was late last year, and will be able to complete that pledge towards the end of this year. So we hope probably we can submit to your office this what we have done. I think Mr. Lito Madrasto is here now. Our executive director will submit it to your office. Going back to our program, our company, CM Pancho Construction Incorporated, or CMPCI, has been in the construction industry for almost 43 years now. At present, CMPCI is included in the short list of AAA large B contractors categorized by Philippine Contractors Accreditation Board as qualified to bid for general building and engineering, local projects, and foreign assisted projects under international bidding. It has completed various construction and development projects such as roads, highways, airports, horizontal structures and bridges, irrigation and flood control systems, dams, water supply systems, seaports, harbors, buildings, industrial plants, bid retrofitting, mining, and real estate development. CMPCI's corporate philosophy of quality, health and safety, and environmental management system, above all else, for about 4 years now, formally integrates integrity as part of its core values. This reinforces CMPCI's commitment to conduct its business with utmost integrity. Looking back, the board of directors of CMPCI, without hesitation, embraced the opportunity to improve the company's business processes by incorporating safeguards for prevention and early detection of any misconduct or corruption. This enabled us to achieve confidence that never again would CMPCI be involved or be subject of any perception of misconduct or corruption. The alignment of our business processes to generally accepted standards such as the ISO and that of the newly established integrity standards came easy since principles and practices were already ingrained in our culture. And the only remaining thing to do is to formalize such standards into a comprehensive document, such as our Code of Corporate Governance and Integrity Compliance Program. The adoption and robust implementation of the CMPCI's integrity system can be considered the toughest among the many management systems since misconduct is behavioral in nature. Nonetheless, I, as the appointed compliance officer, stood firm to spearhead a misconduct-free CMPCI environment. The key to its vigorous implementation, among others, is the commitment and direction from the top. In order that any management system could efficiently run, its implementation entails not only allocation of time and commitment, but outlay of cost and expenses, which could later on be translated to a business edge, added value, competitiveness, and profitability. We created our integrity compliance team to evaluate our pre-qualification and bidding process. In that process, some loopholes and information leak areas had been detected. After thorough analysis, we strengthened our processes, conducted risk assessment, misconduct identification, with determining controls, established internal and external audit system, and information leak-free bids. I, together with my siblings, worked together towards a culture of integrity compliance and an active anti-corruption mindset, and move a whole community of employees to imbibe such culture and frame of mind. It starts from the top. It also starts with coming up with the one's integrity compliance program. Assimilation of an anti-corruption culture is the key. CMPCI has turned integrity principles into effective management tools and core values from its president to the lowest member of its staff. The main objective of the program is the prohibition of misconduct such as fraud, corruption, collusion, and coercive practices. With this in mind, the Integrity Compliance Program has provided guidance on the meaning of the scope of this prohibition, with particular attention to areas of high risk in the construction industry, which is the primary business of CMPCI. Thus, the Integrity Compliance Program has given special emphasis in the process of bidding, due diligence of partners, third parties such as subcontractors, consultants, suppliers, and employees, because they are areas in which misconduct will most likely occur in the construction business. CMPCI, through its Integrity Compliance Program, continues to take a clear direction towards the promotion of anti-corruption measures and participation in the discourse to develop systems and controls for the prevention of unethical business practices. Based on the foregoing context, let me discuss some salient portions of CMPCI's Integrity Compliance Program, which would show that culture changes through a vigorous implementation of an Integrity Compliance Program, and the result can be achieved starting from the top management. CMPCI is managed and owned by one family. Contrary to the semblance of autocracy this may entail, our Integrity Compliance Program draws its strength from such peculiarity. As stated in objectives in our Integrity Compliance Program, which I quote, Integrity Compliance Program draws its strength on the two core factors peculiar to CMPCI. Number one, it is managed and owned by siblings who continue the traditional principles of honesty, integrity, and good governance established by their father and founder of CMPCI, Cornelio M. Pancho. Number two, its size easily makes CMPCI people-oriented, as its management believes that the principles of honesty, integrity, and good governance is an individual's responsibility and accountability. This dichotomy between management and rank and file in CMPCI ensures the prevention, detection, and remediation of any misconduct. The limitation of high-level dealings to CMPCI's owners necessarily lessens the burden of detection and pinpoints possible source or culpability of misconduct. For this purpose, and taking into consideration the concentration of powers of CMPCI, I, the Chief Officer, became responsible for the implementation of the Integrity Compliance Program. Thus, detection of high-level culpability for non-compliance or any misconduct is easily identified. As you will observe, the culture of integrity and accountability can and should start from the top. The Board of Directors of CMPCI was also tasked with the ultimate responsibility over the development and implementation of the Integrity Compliance Program. In line with the foregoing, the Board has, number one, adopted the Integrity Compliance Program through the assistance of J.G. Lo, Jimenez Gonzalez, Bello, Valdez, Caluya, and Fernandez, also a proud member of Makati Business Club. Number two, appointed CMPCI's Integrity Compliance Officer, the ICO. Number three, created an Integrity Compliance Team, ICT. Number four, appointed an external auditor, Banaria and Company, an MBC member as well, to conduct quarterly audit of CMPCI's bidding process. Number five, created an audit committee. Six, appointed an internal auditor. And last, formulated policies, developed procedures, and allocate funds for the rigorous implementation of the ICP. As a construction company, CMPCI has identified the area of risk of fraud, corruption, collusion, and coercion. It must be stressed that the first step of risk identification is the acknowledgement of areas susceptible to such risk, which in turn entails an honest and open procedure of self-regulation. In this regard, CMPCI has promulgated and implemented its own risk assessment, misconduct identification, and risk control procedures. This policy allows the different departments of CMPCI involved in pre-qualification, estimating, post-qualification, operations, information, and purchasing to make a self-assessment of the areas prone to misconduct in their respective area of responsibility. The methodology is to assign risk ratings and thereafter create programs to minimize or eliminate such risk. In particular, the process of pre-qualification, estimating, post-qualification, operations, or areas in which bids to the projects are prepared and processed. Should there be detection of any misconduct, CMPCI has promulgated its procedures on incident and investigation report, misconduct, nonconformities, corrective and preventive action procedures. On a higher level, Integrity Compliance Program provides the management's responsibilities as follows, and I quote, reportorial, disclosure, evaluation, and approval of CMPCI's negotiation with third parties and preparation of bid documents. The board shall require a compliance report from the committee concerned for any project in which CMPCI is involved before the start of the project's bidding process and thereafter regardless of whether CMPCI wins in the bidding. It shall be imperative that the confidentiality of amount of the bid be preserved. Thus, as last resort to protect such confidentiality from any possible leakage or collusion, one of the members of the board shall be designated to give out discounts in a sealed envelope to be submitted to the Bids and Awards Committee, which amount shall be known only to the designated member. This action shall be reported to the compliance officer. The bid process shall be subject to quarterly post-review by the external auditor and shall report findings, if there will be any, to the audit committee. As you will note, CMPCI places premium on the integrity and legitimacy of its bids. Concomitant with the integrity and legitimacy of its bid is the elimination of collusion among bidders. Thus, CMPCI has placed its own peculiar brand of self-regulation and confidentiality protection, which is to designate one of the members of the board to give out discounts in a sealed envelope to be submitted to the Bids and Awards Committee, which amount shall be known only to the designated member. This final bid is still buttressed by legitimate calculations, but the designated member is authorized to make the necessary adjustments in the final price to ensure confidentiality. As it is, the buck stops here. Any investigation of collusion will be limited to the designated member. Moreover, CMPCI has incorporated in its policies the following measures to prevent the submission of defective bid securities by CMPCI or any joint partner. Number one, CMPCI has placed a strong emphasis in the evaluation of the possible joint venture partners and extensive review of bid documents, including bid securities. For this purpose, a due diligence report is required to be submitted for CMPCI's evaluation. All bids undergo several extensive review and rectification before submission. Regular reports are submitted to and taken up by the Board of Directors in all matters pertaining to the Integrity Compliance Program, including quarterly audit of the bidding process by Banaria and Banaria, CMPCI's external auditor, and the reports from the Integrity Compliance Team, Audit Committee, and Internal Auditor. The employment contract of every employee in CMPCI includes compliance with the Integrity Compliance Program as a condition of employment. Moreover, proper due diligence reports are prepared for each and every potential new hire using vet forms included in the Integrity Compliance Program. On the issue of reporting The Integrity Compliance Program states that the Integrity Compliance Team shall communicate to all employees that they have a duty to report promptly any concerns they may have concerning the Integrity Compliance Program, whether relating to their own actions or the acts of others. It shall provide alternative channels of communication for employees who may be reluctant to communicate directly with their supervisors. For this purpose, a whistleblowing hotline and email address had been placed in conspicuous places within CMPCI's premises. This simple means of reporting provided a direct link between top management and the rank-and-file employees insofar as reporting any misconduct or corrupt practices is concerned. As a conclusion to this presentation, CMPCI joins the Integrity Initiative in believing that corruption is anathema to economic progress, and it is good business to work against corruption, not only because it will reap the returns of hard work and not the returns of the bribes given, but more importantly, it is the duty of every citizen to do so. Thus, CMPCI stands for meritocracy in conducting its business and acquiring projects from both the private and public sectors. One's merit, skill, ability, and competence are viewed as the fundamental standards of business, particularly with the government. Bribery, corruption, and dishonesty will die a natural death. I would like to thank our partners for the formulation and adoption of our Integrity Compliance Program, JG Law, as presented here by its partners, Attorney Eloy Bello IV, Attorney Winston Esguerra, Banaria and Company, represented by Mr. Sison, and of course Makati Business Club, and European Chamber of Commerce, and the Chairman of Integrity Initiative, Mr. Ramon Del Rosario Jr. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Thank you, Mr. Pancho. You have shown us that setting up systems and structures to change behavior can be very critical. I wonder, though, whether it was easy doing everything and how long it took. Anyway, we can, if there are questions that you have for our earlier two speakers, you can ask them later on during the open forum. We will proceed to our next session. And while I introduce our next set of speakers, I'd like to request you to please go on stage and take your seats. Session 4 will feature specific integrity practices and control measures being implemented across the country by local business groups and economic zones. So we go beyond Metro Manila and we look at other areas like Cebu, Iloilo, and Davao. I would like to introduce our first speaker, Philippine Economic Zone Authority Director General Lilia de Lima.